On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks fall to the Thunder, but the Dallas Mavericks could be involved in some kind of trade between Tim Hardaway Jr. and Caris LeVert. Should the Mavericks consider that trade and then do it? We'll talk about that and the game on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
How about 10 Mavericks, NBA champions? Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. Locked On Mavs is free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Let me know. Would you do, if you're the Mavs, a straight-up Tim Hardaway Jr. for Caris LeVert swap with the Cavs? And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com, the trade titan, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Yeah, we're talking about a fake trade to lead the pod because the OKC game sucked.
Sometimes you can't lead with the game.
Basically, Nick was like, hey, do you want to talk about the Tim Cleveland rumor or the OKC game? I was like, hey, let me talk about the Tim Cleveland rumor. But no, Mavs obviously played OKC yesterday on Sunday. Second night of a back-to-back. They're 0-4. Something or nothing with the whiteboard. They're 0-4 without Luka Doncic this year.
Everything. That's everything. It tells you a lot about this team, especially against the teams that they've played against, right? That Rockets game. Just take the DVD or a thumb drive of that Rockets game without Luka and send it to the league office for his MVP candidacy. That's all you need to know on that front. So we'll talk about the potential swap. It's a rumor from Chris Fedor of Tim Hardaway Jr. and Caris LeVert. Then we'll talk about the Mavs against the Thunder. Christian Wood has a good offensive game. And then we'll talk about some more of that coming up. But let's start with this. According to Cleveland.com's Chris Fedor, the Cavs believe that Tim Hardaway Jr. is available. They'd be interested in a swap with Caris LeVert. Their contracts kind of align. I think Caris LeVert's making, $18 million. Hardaway's making $19 million this year. Caris LeVert is an expiring contract. Tim Hardaway has 2 more years on top of this year. And it would kind of be, I sent this to the Locked On Cavs guys, and they said, it's kind of like just moving chairs around. You're kind of just like, hey, let's just move this part for this part. But if you're the Dallas Mavericks, why would you consider doing this deal?
Yeah, well, on a couple of fronts. I think it would be headlined by money. You look at the two guys. It's a little bit Spider-Man meme-ish. With two guys looking at each other and Tim and Caris LeVert, just for the fact, if you want to look at it and say, all right, two guards coming off the bench, scoring is their main thing that they do. Caris LeVert this year shooting around 37% from three. Tim shoots the ball really well too. The difference is when you look at the money, like you said. And I think if you're Dallas now, if you've been listening to this pod for a while, we actually touched on this exact trade a while back. I want to say a month or so ago about names to watch across the league. And we threw out just very quickly the idea of this in the sense of, and I'm only saying it because I'm going to repeat some of the stuff we said then, is the fact that I remember throwing out then saying, would Dallas do this just to get off the money, just to get off the long-term money of Tim Hardaway, whatever you want to feel like, Caris LeVert, Tim Hardaway, and their styles of play. Would you do that in the sense of get off the money? Because if you're Cleveland, they have all this money tied up already. And Donovan Mitchell and Garland and Jared Allen, all the stuff. Mobley's extension is going to be coming, all that different stuff, okay? So for them, they could be looking at it and saying, all right, Caris LeVert's money, his contract's expiring. We're probably not going to be able to bring him back. So bam, who's somebody we could swap him out that's already under contract for a little bit to where we don't even have to worry about their free agency. That's where Tim would come into play for them.
And it would almost be like a free agency signing for them.
Oh God.
if you want to go in that direction with it. But they're not going to be able to add free agents, right? Because they're not going to be under the cap. So they have Mitchell for 33 next year, Jared Allen for 20. Darius Garland's deal kicks in next year at 33.5. Mobley making like $9 million. Isaac Okoro making like $9 million because they were high draft picks. Kevin Love's money comes off the books, and Caris LeVert's money comes off the books, and you still are owing like $124 million in salaries next year if you're the Cavs. So you're thinking, all right, how do we add some talent and some talent we can keep? And then maybe like fix some of our problems, right? We need some more spot up shooting. Can we get some more spot up shooting? And for the Mavericks, you're looking at it saying, all right, how can we get off of some of this money so that we can have some more flexibility going forward? And then how do we get a little bit more ball handling? They just need somebody else. It's just been so apparent, so clear that Tim Hardaway Jr. is just not that player. He's not the, you saw it in this Thunder game that we're going to talk about later, that he's just not that guy to put the ball in his hands and say, all right, go get a bucket. He has to work off somebody. That's why they have so like closely matched Tim's minutes with Luka's. There's going to be a lot of numbers out there that people are going to throw at you of, well, Tim Hardaway Jr. is plus minus and his on-off splits are really good. Well, yeah, he's playing with Luka like literally every minute, it seems like, because they really tie him together because he works really well off the catch. Luka can get him open whenever. And so that's what the Mavs have tried to really do. But they need somebody else that can dribble, that can get a bucket. And Caris LeVert can do that. He's a really interesting guy. He's been like injury prone throughout his career. He's never played more than 58 games that he played last year. And this year he's playing for the Cavs, coming off the bench. He started to start the year. Now he's coming off the bench. Then he starts again, depending on who's injured. He's also dropped a 40-point game against the Celtics this year in a Cavs win. And he's gotten 20 a couple times off the bench. And so you're just looking at somebody saying, all right, can the Mavs take this guy and can he fill that type of role, just swapping these parts, while also the big benefit of getting off Tim's long-term money so the Mavericks can have some flexibility.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if you're ranking the priorities of it for Dallas, you're saying, all right, we have some contracts on our books that, are going to be tying us up a little bit over the next few years. Bertans, Tim, going on the line a little bit. And I say them first just because they're both in that 17, 18, $19 million range for the next, couple years there. And if they're looking at it saying, how can we save money while also swapping out some parts? If they don't feel like, we were talking about swapping out, parts back when they were playing team. Now they're, 4th, 5th in a Western Conference, but I'd still think that's more likely the type of trade that they could make before the deadline, or they would make before the deadline, is more of swapping out the pieces instead of a huge swing. I think it's more likely, like if you want to say the 3 different angles, if you want to say like, a little piece around the edges that you're adding like an 8th or 9th man on the team, or the big swing, I think both of those are the least likely. I think it's a move the pieces around. I think it's a 2-for-1, move 2 guys out, get another guy in. And in this Tim and LeVert thing, I don't know if it's a clear, I wouldn't be sitting there saying, oh man, that's a clear upgrade. But I would say, I'd be interested in it. Like, I would be interested just in the saving money part. And like you said, I think you can run a little bit more of the offense through LeVert off the bench. I think you can run a little bit more of, hey, throw the ball to him, bring a screen to him, and say, handle the ball a little bit better than Tim. So I can't really speak defensively. I would need to really deep dive LeVert's defense before I'd have a big opinion on that.
So Chris Fedor went on his podcast, and apparently, it was mentioned in there. He reminded me that the Mavericks tried to go get Caris LeVert last offseason. That they tried to go get him, not offseason, last deadline. They tried to go trade for Caris LeVert. Like, this is a player that. Remember, Andrew Baker is in the front office, who used to work for the Nets, who used to be in the front office for the Nets, and now he's with the Mavericks. They go get Dinwiddie. That happens to be a great move for the Mavericks. He's been playing pretty well, and now if they go get Caris LeVert, he played in Brooklyn too, so it would be the reuniting of Dinwiddie and Caris LeVert. You'd get that skill set. So maybe this year it works out, but then also the money is, like Isaac said, the biggest reason why you would do this, so that the Mavericks could have more flexibility off that deal. And then you're only like a couple moves away from getting like max room, right? You have to move off of Bertans. You wouldn't bring back Christian Wood, and you wouldn't bring back Dwight Powell. Like there's a couple things they'd have to do, but you're like not too far off of that if something happens and you need to do a crazy, like, let's clear some space like the Knicks did for Brunson this offseason. Coming up, let's get into the game. Let's talk about the Mavs versus the Thunder. What do we see in this game? Luka didn't play. But Christian Wood, 27 points, 16 rebounds. We'll talk about how he did and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about TurboTax. Go to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Meet with an expert who will do them for you. TurboTax experts can relieve you from the stress of taxes and file for you so you can do, well, anything but taxes. You don't have to do that. You can go watch the Mavs lose another game without Luka. Show your eyes things that are not taxes. Unpack a moving box of not taxes. Taste not taxes. Sing not taxes a lullaby. They really don't want you to do your taxes. What are you hiding, TurboTax? Hope not taxes sleeps through the night. Grab a saddle and ride not taxes into the sunset. With the TurboTax 100% expert guarantee, an expert will do your taxes from start to finish, so you can relax. Feels good to be done with your taxes already if you send it to TurboTax. Come to TurboTax and don't do your taxes. Visit TurboTax.com to learn more. Intuit TurboTax, full service products only. Video meeting while expert does your taxes required. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, Isaac Harris, we talked about the rumor between Tim Hardaway Jr. and Caris LeVert. We'll probably talk about that more throughout the next couple of weeks before the trade deadline. Actually,
sign me up for more rumors, though. This is a lot of fun seeing. I mean, we're in that season, and not the drop. Dang it. But we're in that season, though, and I think more team. In that report, with from Fedora, he was talking about them being interested in Bojan too, and if Tim and Bojan starts getting linked together a little bit, it could be more teams than Cleveland that are going to be kind of viewing them the same type. They're not the same type of player, but
if the Mavs could get a first for Tim Hardaway Jr., like think about at the draft this year, what the Mavericks would have available in picks, and I
don't think they're getting a first.
I'm just saying
I'm saying that's
here's one of the
consolidation.
Here's one of the things. We usually do a ton of trade pods, and we probably will, but we're not going to do as many this year probably because it's such a seller's market, right? It's such a
speak for yourself, Nick.
It's such a seller's market right now because everybody wants to buy. Everybody wants, and so if you have stuff, if you're Bojan Bogdanovic and you're the Pistons, you're like, all right, let's just hold out to see who's going to give us something crazy, right? Who's going to give us multiple picks, or who's going to give us a pick and a young player that's like a rotation piece, and like all this stuff. And if you're the Mavericks, you can't give up first round picks because you're waiting for that big swing that they have to make. This team is just fundamentally flawed until they make that move. And so yeah, if the Mavericks could get in and be like, all right, let's sell and see if Tim Hardaway Jr. can go out there, if they could get some kind of first for him, that would just be such a great move for assets going forward for them. But
I don't think they're getting a first.
Isaac's not holding his breath. I was just saying.
But I do think there's going to be a bidding war, though, for Bojan, like you said, exactly what you said. And if Detroit wants to trade him, I think they'll be able to get what they want, basically. But the other teams who strike out on Bojan, will they be calling Dallas and saying, all right, let's try to figure something out? Probably not the Bojan package, but let's try to figure something out.
Go get one of those Lakers picks, Nico. Go get one of the Lakers picks.
But that's it. That was kind of the mindset, though. I know we're just still talking about trade stuff, that was kind of why when Russ was really, I mean, I guess he's still on the market, but they're actually winning some games.
Well, they said that they're going to finish the season out with him, but we'll see. I don't believe that at all.
When everybody was super desperate, trying to look for around the league for the next Russell Westbrook team, and when we talked about it for 5 minutes on this pod, and we said, the only other angle would be the money part, and it's a big expiring, Tim Bertans, and it's create some money and all that. The difference between the same concept is still there with the LeVert deal, except LeVert's good. And you'd be swapping out and saving some money, but you'd also have a dang good player too, a pretty good player that still play the same type of role coming off the bench. So that'd be kind of exciting.
For sure. It would kind of be all right, it'd be like the Porzingis trade, honestly. Let's move on from a player that we don't think is necessarily working out as well as we would hope, while also getting some more flexibility financially, while also having a player with a skill set that could work for us better than the player that we just sent off, right? It seems like a Nico Harrison type move from the moves that we've seen so far. He's not scared to move off of a player he doesn't think is working and try something completely different. All right, let's talk about this game. The Dallas Mavericks fall to the Thunder, 120-109. Luka doesn't play in this game. No Luka, no Dorian, no Josh Green, no Maxi Kleber. We did see Dorian.
No win.
No, exactly. And no defense for SGA either. We did see Dorian working at warming up before the game. My boy Ryan Stiles from Locked On Thunder sent me a video of Dorian shooting before game, so that makes me feel better. We don't have any real updates on how quickly he's going to come back. Josh Green spoke at practice on Friday, and it seems like he's really close to coming back. It seems like he's working his way back into actually practicing, and they haven't had a ton of practices recently because of how their schedule has been, but it seems like he's coming back soon.
Yeah. They're going on the road trip, and I think they're holding out their options for a return on the road trip, hopefully.
For both of those guys, or just one, you think?
Both.
Yeah. That would be great. They desperately need that and have to basically redo their defense right now because it is just not holding up. And this is one of those games where you could tell. The Mavericks started out really well, I thought. They started with a 15 or a 10-0 run at the beginning of the game. They were up 12-3, and then they were up 15-5, and then they were up 27-18. Like, they had a 9-point lead they were flirting with throughout the first quarter, and then they didn't end the quarter well when the bench lineup came in. And then they were kind of like back and forth. And then the third quarter happened, and SGA just took over. SGA had 17 of OKC's 27 points in the third quarter, but and that was just one of those moments where you go, okay, the best player in this game just took over, and the other team just can't do anything to respond.
And Dallas had six different players that hit a three in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And, they started this game off, and, something I was kind of surprised with is, when Luka doesn't play, when you have a guy that's so, I'm trying to so heliocentric. Let's just say that, when the offense is built around one guy so much that I think you can't help to blame the guys for. I was like, oh, they're going to be kind of excited for this game, right? It's nothing against Luka, but excited that we're going to pass the ball around a lot more. A lot of it's going to be touching a little bit more or a lot more in all of that. But I thought they might change up the offense just a little bit, and I thought that they might run a little bit. Luka's out of the game. One of the biggest reasons why you are such a slow-paced team is you let Luka be this methodical quarterback of just picking the defense apart and let him do his thing. And just and he's such a brilliant wizard. They had 0 fast break points tonight. 0. And I'm
only 10% of their plays were in transition, which is so low for a team in any given game.
I know, and I was just get out and run with some of these guys. That's what you don't have your floor general that's just gonna pick apart the defense and run the whole offense. Just get out and run. So I was kind of surprised by that a little bit, but they started off hot. It's this is what's gonna have to happen, right? Without Luka, they don't have the second star.
That's the game plan with Luka too, is hit more threes than the other team does. So they just went with the same thing. And a lot of people have pointed out on Twitter and other things. I know, kid. I know.
Twitter isn't the coach.
I know,
or
but
the player.
This team, though, they don't really run an offense, doesn't feel like. They don't really have this system that they run. It's a lot of just Dinwiddie ISO on the top of the key. It's even when Dinwiddie was out, they had this lineup at one point in the game where it was Tim, it was Frank and McKinley Wright and Dwight and Christian Wood, and you're asking Tim Hardaway Jr. to play the Dinwiddie Luka role. That's just not going to work. You got to run.
Don't have anybody else though.
You got to run something. Well, could have thrown Hardy out there, but the thing is, the fundamental problem is that you got to run. You got to do something else. Run something else. Run some. I don't know. Can we run a motion offense? Can we go back to the triangle? Can we go get John Wooden out here? Can we get somebody to run some plays?
Yeah, and they couldn't score in the paint. And this was, you immediately take out Luka, who has been driving at will and has been getting to the paint and getting free throws and all of that. They shot 42 free throws tonight, but they couldn't score in the paint at all. No. There was a point in the second half. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me about their shots in the paint, but I was texting with somebody, and they're they're 5 for 17 in the paint. It's oh my goodness. They only had 24 points in the paint. 24 out of 109 points were in the paint. That's where they missed the second guy the most. Like, you got to have somebody else that can get into the paint and do what Luka's like, get into the paint, get a floater, get into the paint and drive to the basket and do his thing. Like, you got to have somebody else that can do that. And they just don't right now.
If only they had a guard that was here that was a homegrown talent that could do those exact things that you're just saying. Coming up, let's talk about Christian Wood. Christian Wood was the only guy I felt like that really had big impact on this game. Jason Kidd talked about how he played Luka minutes in this game. They decided to leave him out there. We'll talk about Hardy too and what he showed in this game and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar. Tastes like a candy bar. You got to try Built Bars. They are delicious. And if you want all of the deliciousness, but you don't want all the fat and the calories, Built Bar is the one for you. They have the Brownie Batter Puffs, my favorite bar. 140 calories, 17 grams of protein, 6 grams of sugar in a bar covered in 100% chocolate. They're great. If you need something on the go, if you need to get a quick snack, you can grab them. And right now you can grab them at Walmart. Go ahead and pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. You can also go to Sam's Club and get a 13-bar box. You can go check that out as well at Walmart or Sam's Club. You can get them. You can also still get them on the website, built.com. You may try the Locked 15 promo code. You may just try that. I don't know. I don't think Built Bar is telling me to do that, but you may just try that to see if you can get some money off of your Built Bar. So check them out. It's built.com or go to Walmart or Sam's Club to get your Built Bars. All right, Isaac Harris, continuing to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Lost to the Thunder. Christian Wood, 27 points, 16 rebounds, 2 assists, and he was a +1 in a game where the Mavericks lost by a lot. What did you see from Christian Wood in this game?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was aggressive. He took 13 shots in a game, finished with 27 points. I was looking up after the game just how many. I was like, I wonder how many times he scored 27 points. He's only done that 36 times in his career, which kind of surprised me. I'm like, out of the Detroit, Houston, days, and even this year, I was like, I feel like he's had over 27, a little bit more, but 27 points for him tonight. He had a couple tough offensive fouls. Couple of them I thought were kind of ticky-tacky. A couple of them I thought were warranted, but yeah. I mean, when you look at a game like this without Luka, and you look at two guys, you look at Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie, and you're saying, all right, one of you two guys, I mean, let's say Christian Wood, you're our second best player on the team. Dinwiddie, third best player. However, you two guys are the next guys up. We need you guys to have pretty dominant games on both ends of the floor. And, Christian Wood did his best tonight, 16 total rebounds, 27 points, like we said, but it was a tough overall night for the whole team, but he had a pretty good game.
1 of 5 from 3. You're used to Christian Wood making, a good percentage of his threes. I was lauding how great of a 3-point shooter he was on the last podcast, but he did get to the free throw line 12 times, hit 10 of those. So that was a positive for sure. I think that he was kind of the one player I thought had a good game despite those weird fouls. He had 4 turnovers too that are definitely not good in this game. When just the margins are so thin, you can't have your big man with 4 turnovers. You can't have that. Spencer Dinwiddie, 21 points, 8 assists. He was 6 of 16 from the field. He was 1 of 5 from 3 as well. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. is kind of like one of the big stories coming out of this game. He got to the podium after the game and said, "This one's on me. I take full responsibility for this loss." What did you think about Tim saying, "Hey, this loss is fully on me and no one else"?
I mean, that's what a leader does. I mean, that's what this is something we didn't talk about in the first segment when we were talking about, the whole Cleveland rumor, but he's one of the few vet guys on the team as far as an older, I won't say older, but a mature voice in the locker room, him, Dwight Powell. And that's what a vet does, right? This is what, Luka does it all the time, but Tim stepping up. I mean, he did put up 19 points tonight, but he was a -17 in the game. In a game that, like you said, Christian Wood was a +1. So it was tough for him on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they were flying past him. I mean, that's nothing new, but but he did hit 4 threes in the game. I thought him hitting 4 threes. I thought Reggie hitting 3 threes was great. Davis hit 3 threes, I think, in this game, 3 or 4, 3. But yeah, Tim, it was tough. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's all on him. I don't agree with him that it's all on him for the loss. But I respect him as a leader for saying it.
It's one of those, if you look at a game like this, you're like, okay, what's the calculus? Like, how do we manufacture a win here against a team that defends really well, and the Thunder do defend really well. Like, let's not pretend that this team is the Rockets or the Spurs or like one of these terrible, awful teams that just are terrible on both ends. And so you're like, all right, well, we gotta hit way more threes. We gotta hit a ton of threes, and we also gotta be efficient in what we do and figure out a way to defend. Well, all of our defenders are out except for Bullock. Like literally, there's 4 players on the team that can play defense really well. 3 of them are out. So what do we do with this scheme that depends on like all 5 players working together and being good at defense? And so you're like, all right, well, we just got to outscore guys. And if you're going to outscore guys, you have to be better than 6 of 18 from the field, 6 of 16 from the field for Dinwiddie. And that's why you're like, all right, I kind of agree with him that it's kind of on him. He also missed like a bunch of shots right at the rim. And he said that after the game. He's like, I can't be missing bunnies at the rim. One of the reasons why the Mavericks were so bad in the paint and around the paint, like you said, they were 10 of 15 at the rim, 4 of 14 at the short mid. So like the floater range or like close to the rim where you launch and you like take a shot right there. That's where you just really hurt. Because if you can't hit some of those shots, like those are some of your easy shots where there's nobody in front of you and it's just you in the basket. You're like, all right, just make a shot from there. You can't take another step and make it a layup, but you can hit a shot from there. Tim was missing a bunch of those. And yeah, like I don't agree with him that it was all on him for sure, but you if you're going to win a game like this, the calculus is we need more from Tim. He had, you look at the third quarter, he had 12 points in the third quarter, and the Mavericks kind of went on a run there. And that's when you're like, okay, maybe they have a chance. Maybe they can get back in this game and even take a lead here. And then SGA was like, no, I'm gonna score 17 of my own and just completely nullify what Tim is doing on the other end. Yeah.
I mean, he still finished with 19, but in a weird way, I mean, they really need Tim to score more than 19
on 18 shots is like not good though. It's not good efficiency.
Well, the fact that Tim is taking 18 shots, in a game without he's taking more shots than Dinwiddie and Christian Wood. Christian Wood only took 13 shots in this game. So.
Yeah, great efficiency for Christian Wood, 27 points on 13 shots.
I thought Jaden Hardy struggled in this game.
Yeah, it's a learning game for sure.
It's kind of tough for him. 5 fouls, a couple turnovers. Only finished with 9 points off the bench. Played 27 minutes, so a lot of minutes for him. But it's just going to take time. Like I'm not watching this game. I'm not overreacting to the highest of highs of Jaden Hardy's games. I'm not going to overreact to games like this. It's going to take time, and that's just part of it this year.
Yeah, this is a growing pains game for him for sure. You come in and like last night, everybody was raving about his finishing at the rim. Well, he really struggled to finish at the rim against this game. He had two drives. I think he just completely got blocked by Jalen Williams, who is this really he's like 6'6", and so you look at him and you're like, okay, well they're not playing any centers out there. I can just get to the rim and I'm gonna be able to finish this quickly like I did last night. And then Jalen Williams comes in. He's got a 7'2" wingspan and just blocks him right out of nowhere, it seems like. And so, yeah, he struggled in that area, was 1 of 5 from 3. Some of those were just chucks at the end of the game. The Mavericks had a lot of possessions in this game where you're just like, they're throwing up a shot with like 1 second left on the clock because they just needed to put up something. That's one of those where you're like, oh, this team is not running a really cohesive offense because they're just not generating shots. Their offense is Luka. Their offense is Luka generating those shots for them and those good shots for them. So that was another reason why I think he struggled in this game. Did get to the free throw line 6 times, which is a positive, but the Mavericks took 42 free throws. Like you normally win games where you take that many free throws.
All right, can we play a quick game?
Go for it.
Before we wrap this pod up, SGA, incredible player, 33 points. We set the over-under on yesterday's pod at 32.5. We both said over. We both barely won that. He would be a perfect sidekick to Luka Doncic.
100%.
Insane. So let's play a little game. What would you do to get SGA on the Mavericks?
Wow.
Are you ready? Tell me what you would do. Would you pay $1 more per gallon of gas for the next year if it meant SGA would be on the Mavericks?
For sure, I got a hybrid. Let's go. Let's do it. I'll give up the dollar. Right.
If it meant no fast food at all for the whole next year, like you can't go through a drive-through.
Bring it on. I'm doing it anyway. Bring it on.
Whataburger. You're not doing any fast food at all. No Chick-fil-A.
No.
Wow. Okay.
I got some work. I got some work to do on myself.
No toothbrush for a whole for a whole year, but it means that SGA would be a Maverick.
So I'm using my finger as a tooth.
You're doing the finger.
Wait. Can I use a water pick? Have you seen one of those? Like
no.
Can I use floss? I can't floss.
No. We're doing straight up toothpaste.
Now you're expanding the
straight up toothpaste on your finger.
Sure. Yeah, I'd do it for a year. Heck yeah.
Dang.
That's 2 titles for the Mavs right there. Luka and SGA.
Okay. You can only take right turns in your car.
I'm Derek Zoolander.
for 2 months. But SGA would be a Maverick.
2 months. Yeah, bring it on. I work from home. Let's do it. Find something I wouldn't do, Isaac.
You have to wear an NBA jersey underneath every single outfit you wear for a year.
Under?
It's like it's your base layer. An NBA jersey and nothing else underneath the jersey.
Is it like
just the jersey on bare skin for a whole year as your undershirt? Now you can swap out jerseys, but it's just every single morning you got to put on a jersey on your bare skin underneath all your clothes for a whole year.
I think Slightly Biased does this anyway. Like I think this is just his normal get up. Like I'm in. I'll do it with him.
You would do it for a whole year.
Heck yeah. For SGA on the Mavericks, Isaac, that's 2 titles. Imagine how fun that playoff run was last year. Now you get to do that like 8 more times.
Okay. I think I would agree with you on all of them except the toothbrush. There's no way I could go a whole year without a toothbrush.
I'm doing the finger. I'm doing the I forgot my
There's no way.
I'll get a water pick. I'll do floss, mouthwash. Like I'm all in them. I can do it. My dental hygiene's gonna be fine. Maybe I'll do more dental visits. They can use a toothbrush on me.
You have to watch a Fast and Furious movie every single morning for a whole year.
It's family over everything, Isaac. Let's do it. Fire it up. Which one is it? Tokyo Drift? I think I've only seen the first one, to be honest.
No, the 9th one is torture. I actually
That's
like
what it's
that
called.
franchise.
Fast and Furious Torture.
It should be. It's the worst movie.
Is it the one where he jumps from building to building with the car?
No. This one's where he jumps like cliff to cliff and he like hooks like never mind.
Let us know in the comment section below. What would you do to get I thought you know what I would do? I would murder Ryland Styles. I would just straight up murder.
You couldn't enjoy it. You just be in jail.
Enjoy murdering him?
No, I'm saying you just be in jail enjoying the title.
I would do that to get SJ. He's so good. Oh my gosh. It's so ridiculous how good he's gotten this year. Like
and he's rots away.
He's got to be most improved, right? Like
probably.
He's probably going to start in the All-Star game. That's wild.
He'd be fun.
He went from 24 points a game to 31. Like that's a leap that you just don't take as a player.
I thought he was going to get traded this year going into the season. I was like, but now he's reached the level of like you can't trade him at all.
No, he's like of all the tanking that they did, they finally got a guy that is that guy.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comment section below. What would you do for a Klondike bar? What would you do for SGA on the Mavericks? And we'll be back tomorrow with more. We're going to break down the midway point of the season. We're going to talk about what this team is, try to evaluate. All right, we've had all these numbers, all this stuff, all these stretches. What is this Mavericks team? We'll talk about that tomorrow. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.